The battlefield was silent, except for the hiss of ruptured engines and the crackle of burning alien metal. Ash drifted through the violet sky like falling snow as the human staggered forward, his armor split and dark with blood. He had survived the ambush only by crawling through wreckage and fire, driven by a promise he no longer knew how to keep. Ahead of him lay the alien queen, her once radiant form collapsed against a shattered crystalline pillar. Her iridescent wings were torn, her royal mantle scorched, and glowing ichors seeped into the fractured ground. She was beauty and terror intertwined, ruler of 1,000 systems, now brought low by betrayal. When the human reached for her, she recoiled with a sharp intake of breath, her luminous eyes narrowing with fury and pain. "Betrayed and injured," the alien queen whispered, "you mustn't touch me, human." Her voice carried ancient authority, but beneath it trembled something raw and wounded. The human froze, his hand hovering in the air, torn between instinct and respect. He had been sent as an envoy, a symbol of fragile peace, yet now he stood accused by circumstance and bloodshed. Behind him, the wreckage of allied ships told a story of treachery neither side had foreseen. "I didn't know," he said softly, his voice hoarse from smoke and grief. "They used me to get close to you." The queen's gaze burned into him, searching for deception, for the familiar scent of lies. Memories flooded her mind, secret councils shattered, trusted generals revealed as conspirators. Her own court had sold her position for power, aligning with those who feared the future humans represented. And now a single wounded human stood before her, refusing to flee. "You stand where my enemies fell," she said, her claws digging into the stone as she tried to rise and failed. "Why should I believe you are not the same?" The human lowered himself to one knee, exposing his unarmored neck in a gesture learned from old Earth legends. "Because if I wanted you dead," he replied, "I would already be running." Silence stretched between them, heavy as gravity. The queen studied him, sensing not dominance, but resolve and sorrow. For the first time since the betrayal began, doubt crept into her certainty. And in the ruins of a broken alliance, something fragile and dangerous stirred. The queen's breathing was uneven, each rise of her chest sending a ripple of pain through her injured form. The human noticed the tremor despite her efforts to remain regal. Instinct urged him to help, yet he remained still, honoring her command. Around them, distant explosions echoed as rival factions clashed beyond the horizon. This world, once chosen as neutral ground for peace, had become a graveyard of ambition. The queen closed her eyes briefly, drawing strength from centuries of rule. "Humans are new to the stars," she said, her tone sharper now. "You burn brightly and recklessly." "We learn fast," the human answered, "sometimes through suffering." Her eyes opened again, glowing softly as she regarded him. "You carry guilt not entirely your own," she observed, sensing the turmoil within him. "I feel it pressing against your thoughts." The human swallowed, surprised. "They slaughtered my crew," he said, "people who trusted me. If I hadn't believed in this alliance, they would still be alive." The queen's expression shifted, anger giving way to something colder and deeper. Betrayal was a language she knew too well, spoken fluently by those closest to power. Slowly, with visible effort, she extended one clawed hand toward the ground. "My healers are gone," she admitted, "slain by those sworn to protect me. If I remain here, I will not survive." The human felt his heart pound as the unspoken truth settled between them. "You need help," he said, choosing his words carefully. "And I'm the only one left." Her gaze locked onto his, ancient and searching. "You were told not to touch me," she reminded him. "But if you leave me," she continued, "you will carry the death of a queen on your conscience." The wind howled through the ruins, carrying ash and distant screams. The human removed his gauntlet slowly, deliberately. His bare hand trembled, not with fear, but with the gravity of the moment. "I won't touch you unless you ask," he said. For a long moment, the queen said nothing. Then, barely louder than a breath, she whispered, "Help me stand." When his hand finally met her arm, energy surged between them, alien and human senses colliding. The queen stiffened, then steadied, surprised by the gentleness of his grip. Against all reason, she allowed herself to lean on him. In that instant, trust was not given freely, but forged painfully. And both knew there would be no turning back. Supporting the queen was like holding a living star, fragile and overwhelming all at once. Her weight was less physical than spiritual, centuries of leadership pressing against the human's resolve. They moved slowly through the shattered hall, avoiding fallen debris and flickering energy fields. "The traitors will hunt us," the queen said quietly. "They will not allow me to live." "Then we don't let them find you," the human replied, scanning the ruins. A distant screech cut through the air, sharp and predatory. The queen's wings twitched reflexively, pain flashing across her face. "Scouts," she hissed, "they smell blood." The human guided her behind a collapsed wall of crystal, activating the last remaining power cell in his suit. A faint cloak shimmered around them, bending light and sound. It would not last long. As they waited, the queen studied him from the corner of her eye. "You risk much for a species not your own," she said. "My people taught me that loyalty doesn't end at biology," he answered. The scouts passed, clicking and snarling, their weapons gleaming with cruel intent. Only when their presence faded did the queen exhale slowly. "You surprise me, human," she admitted. They continued onward toward an abandoned landing platform. Along the way, the queen spoke of her empire, fractured by fear of change. She had believed unity could be achieved through diplomacy. "I was wrong," she said, her voice heavy. "I underestimated how deeply fear can root itself." The human listened, recognizing the same pattern echoed in human history. At the platform, a damaged shuttle lay half buried in debris. Its hull was scorched, but its core still pulsed faintly with power. "I can make this fly," the human said, inspecting it. The queen sank onto a fractured seat, her strength waning. "If we escape," she said, "nothing will ever be the same." He met her gaze, unwavering. "It never is after the truth comes out," he replied. Behind them, alarms began to wail as enemy forces converged. The human powered up the shuttle just as weapons fire tore into the platform. The engines roared to life, lifting them into the burning sky. The queen closed her eyes, exhaustion claiming her at last. As the stars stretched before them, the human realized he was no longer just an envoy. He was now the protector of a queen and the bearer of a war yet to come. The shuttle drifted through hyperspace, its interior lit by soft emergency lights. The queen lay resting, her breathing steadier but still fragile. Bioluminescent veins along her skin pulsed slowly, responding to unfamiliar human medical aid. The human worked silently, following translated schematics projected from his wrist device. Every movement was careful, respectful. He had never treated royalty, let alone an alien monarch. When the queen awoke, she watched him without speaking. "You treat me as an equal," she finally said. "Not as a god." He smiled faintly, not looking up. "Power doesn't make pain hurt less," he replied. Her lips curved slightly, an alien expression of amusement. "Many have forgotten that," she said. She shifted, wincing, and he immediately adjusted the support beneath her. The silence between them was no longer hostile, but thoughtful. "My people will demand retribution," the queen said after a time. "And your people will demand answers." "Yes," the human agreed, "and both will want someone to blame." She turned her gaze toward the stars beyond the viewport. "If I declare the truth," she said, "civil war will erupt." If you do not, he countered, the traitors will rule unchallenged. The weight of leadership pressed down on her once more. To be queen was to choose between terrible options. She had always believed herself strong enough to bear it alone. Yet now a human stood beside her, sharing that burden without being asked. "Stay with me," she said suddenly, meeting his eyes. "Until this is finished." He hesitated only a moment. "I will," he said, knowing the cost. The queen inclined her head, a gesture of deep respect among her kind. In that moment, alliances shifted not through treaties, but through shared resolve. The future of two civilizations balanced on trust born in fire and blood. And somewhere in the void, the betrayers prepared for a reckoning they could not yet imagine. The shuttle emerged near a hidden system, stars burning like watchful eyes. Here, beyond the reach of conspirators, the queen would heal and plan. The humans stood at her side as she regained her strength. News spread quietly through loyal channels, whispers of survival and truth. Those who had plotted in shadows began to fear the light. When the queen finally stood unaided, her presence filled the chamber once more. "You were told not to touch me," she said, recalling their first meeting. "Yet you were the only one who truly reached me." The human bowed his head slightly, humbled. "I only did what was right," he replied. She stepped forward, no longer needing support. "And that," she said, "is why history will remember you." Together, they prepared to face the galaxy, not as ruler and pawn, but as allies forged by betrayal and survival. The war ahead would be brutal, but it would not be fought alone. Among the stars, a new legend began. One where trust crossed species, and a wounded queen found strength through unexpected hands. And where a single human proved that compassion could change the fate of empires. The hidden system was calm on the surface, its twin suns casting long ribbons of gold across the silent station. Yet beneath that calm, preparation hummed like a restrained storm. The queen's loyalists gathered quietly, ships arriving without signals, crews sworn to secrecy and truth. The human watched from the observation deck as unfamiliar vessels docked one by one. Each carried warriors, diplomats, and survivors who had doubted the official story. Hope moved through them like a cautious flame. The queen entered the chamber, no longer leaning on supports, her wounds sealed with living light. Her presence commanded silence instantly. When she spoke, her voice carried not anger but certainty. "You were told I was dead," she said. "You were told humans betrayed us. You were told fear was wisdom." Murmurs rippled through the gathered beings. The human felt the weight of the moment press against his chest. This was no longer survival, this was revelation. "I live," the queen continued, "and the truth lives with me." She gestured toward the human, and every eye turned his way. "This one stood when my own court fled," she said. "He could have abandoned me and lived. He chose otherwise." The human resisted the urge to step back, grounding himself in steady breath. He spoke only when the queen inclined her head, granting him voice. "I was used," he said simply. "They used my trust to reach her. They used your fear to justify murder. But lies cannot survive the light forever." Silence followed, thick and fragile. Then a senior commander stepped forward, lowering their weapon in a gesture of allegiance. Others followed, slowly, deliberately. The queen felt something shift deep within her. This was leadership not enforced, but earned anew. For the first time since the betrayal, she allowed herself to believe in repair. Later, alone with the human, she stood beside the viewport, watching stars drift past. "The galaxy will fracture before it heals," she said. "Your kind may suffer for standing with me." He nodded, accepting the truth without hesitation. "Human history is built on hard lessons," he replied. If this is one of them, we'll face it. She studied him, searching for doubt, finding none. You were warned not to touch me, she said softly. Yet you touched the future. He met her gaze, understanding the weight behind her words. We did, he said, meaning more than himself. Outside, fleets aligned quietly, no banners raised, no war cries spoken. This would not be a war of conquest. It would be a war of exposure. Truth against corruption, loyalty against fear. As the Queen turned back toward her people, crown gleaming with renewed light. And the human took his place beside her, neither above nor below. The galaxy shifted, not with explosions, but with choice. And somewhere far away, those who had betrayed a queen began to realize that survival was never the same as victory. The first attack came without warning. A loyalist outpost near the system's edge vanished in a bloom of silent light. No distress call escaped, only debris drifting like a warning. The Queen felt the loss as a sharp ache through the neural bond she shared with her people. They have found us, she said quietly, and they are afraid. Fear made enemies reckless, and reckless enemies made mistakes. The humans studied tactical projections as data streamed across the chamber. They're probing, he said, testing our defenses and our resolve. The Queen's commanders gathered, their expressions grim but focused. This was no longer a hidden struggle. The war of exposure had begun. They will strike civilians next, one commander warned. They want to paint us as tyrants. The Queen's claws tightened slowly, not in rage, but restraint. Then we deny them that narrative, she said. We protect the vulnerable first. The human met her gaze, respect deepening. Orders flowed swiftly, evacuation corridors opened, escort fleets deployed. Across the sector, refugees were moved under the Queen's seal. Each life saved weakened the betrayer's lies. But the enemy adapted quickly. A corrupted broadcast erupted across the galaxy, twisted images showing the Queen as a conqueror. The human watched familiar techniques, propaganda perfected long ago on Earth. They're rewriting reality, he said. They always do, the Queen replied, her voice heavy with memory. The human stepped forward during the council, addressing alien leaders without armor or weapon. Truth alone is not enough, he said. You must show it. He proposed open rescues, transparent negotiations, shared command with neutral observers. Risky, dangerous, and impossible to fake. The room fell silent as the implications settled. The Queen considered him for a long moment, then inclined her head. We will fight in the open, she declared. Let the galaxy watch. The next engagement unfolded in full view. Loyalist ships shielding civilian transports while enemy fire rained down. The human's voice carried through shared channels, calm and steady. Stay with the escorts, he instructed fleeing captains. Do not break formation. Against expectation, they listened. When the battle ended, the images spread faster than any lie. Not of conquest, but of sacrifice. Not of domination, but protection. The Queen watched the data in silence. They will escalate, she said. Yes, the human agreed, because they're losing control. Later, as repairs echoed through the station, the Queen stood beside him once more. You stand in war as you did in ruin, she said. Without hunger for power. He answered honestly. I just don't want anyone else used the way we were. The Queen placed her hand briefly over his, a gesture once forbidden, now chosen. Beyond the station walls, fleets gathered and shadows shifted. The betrayers prepared their final move. And both human and Queen knew the next strike would aim not at fleets, but at hearts.